There is a question that haunts the minds of thousands, perhaps millions of people who have studied the principles of mental creation. It is a question that rises in the quiet hours of the night when hope has dimmed and frustration has settled into the bones. The question is simple, yet it carries the weight of countless unfulfilled dreams. Why does it work for others, but not for me? You have read the books. You have practiced the visualizations. You have repeated the affirmations until the words have become automatic, flowing from your lips without conscious thought. You have tried to believe, truly believe, that the life you desire is on its way to you, and yet here you are, waiting, still waiting. Watching others seem to attract opportunities, relationships, wealth, and health with an ease that feels almost supernatural, while your own manifestations remain stubbornly lodged somewhere between imagination and reality. If this describes your experience, then what you are about to hear may change everything you thought you understood about the process of mental creation. Because more than a century ago, a man who had himself struggled through poverty, failure, and obscurity discovered something that most modern teachers of manifestation have either forgotten or never fully grasped. His name was Wallace D. Wattles, and in his writings from 1910, he revealed a secret so subtle, so easily overlooked, that the vast majority of people who study the law of attraction miss it entirely. Wattles discovered that there is one mental signal, one specific quality of thought that determines how fast the universe responds to your desires. He understood that the difference between those who manifest quickly and those who wait endlessly is not about the intensity of their desire, not about the clarity of their vision, and not even about the strength of their faith in the conventional sense. The difference lies in something far more nuanced, something he tried desperately to communicate to a world that was not yet ready to fully understand. This is the speed secret. And once you understand it, you will never approach the process of creation the same way again. To understand what Wattles discovered, we must first understand the man himself and the crucible of experience that forged his insights. Wallace Wattles was not born into privilege. He did not receive his wisdom from prestigious universities or ancient mystery schools. His education came from the most unforgiving teacher of all, a life of repeated failure, financial hardship, and the slow, grinding weight of dreams deferred. Born in 1860 in the American Midwest, Wattles spent the first several decades of his life in what can only be described as quiet desperation. He worked manual jobs. He struggled to provide for his family. He watched opportunities pass him by while others, seemingly less deserving, rose to prosperity and influence. By all external measures, he was a failure, a man whose life seemed destined to end in the same obscurity in which it had been lived. But something within Wattles refused to accept this fate. There was a burning question in his mind that would not let him rest. Why do some people succeed while others, equally hardworking, equally intelligent, remain trapped in limitation? This question became his obsession, driving him to study philosophy, religion, and the emerging science of the mind with an intensity that bordered on desperation. He studied the works of Hegel, the German philosopher who wrote about the movement of thought through thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. He immersed himself in the teachings of the New Thought movement, which was then revolutionizing the way people understood the relationship between mind and matter. He read Emerson, who spoke of the oversoul that connects all beings. He studied the Hindu concept of Brahman, the infinite consciousness from which all creation springs. And slowly, painstakingly, he began to piece together an understanding of reality that would transform not only his own life, but the lives of countless others who would later discover his work. What Wattles came to understand was that the universe is not dead matter governed by mechanical laws, but living substance, intelligent and responsive, that he called the formless substance, or the thinking stuff. This was not mere philosophy for Wattles. It was practical knowledge, as real and applicable as the laws of physics. He understood that this formless substance permeates all space, interpenetrates all things, and responds to the thought of human beings by taking the form of whatever is clearly and persistently held in the mind. This was the foundation of his teaching. That thought, when properly directed, impresses itself upon the formless substance and causes it to move toward the thinker in the form of circumstances, opportunities, and material manifestation. But here is where Wattles diverged from many other teachers of mental science, both in his time and in ours. He understood that not all thought is equal in its creative power. The formless substance does not respond to thought in a simple mechanical way, like a vending machine that dispenses your selection when you insert the correct amount of money. No, the formless substance responds to the quality of thought, to the signal that underlies the words and images in your mind. And this is where the secret of speed begins to reveal itself. Wattles observed, both in his own experience and in his study of successful people throughout history, that there is a certain quality of mental activity that seems to accelerate the process of creation. When this quality is present, things move quickly. Opportunities appear as if from nowhere. The right people show up at the right time. Resources flow toward the thinker with an ease that seems almost miraculous. But when this quality is absent, even the most persistent visualization, even the most fervent affirmation, seems to produce little or no result. What is this quality? What is this signal that accelerates creation? Before we can understand the signal that works, we must first understand why so many people send the wrong signal without ever realizing it. This is crucial because the wrong signal is not obvious. It often masquerades as the right signal. It feels like faith. It looks like positive thinking. But underneath the surface, it carries a frequency that the formless substance cannot respond to with speed and power. The first form of wrong signal is what Wattles called competitive thought. This is the mental orientation of most people in the modern world, so pervasive that many do not even recognize it as a specific way of thinking. Competitive thought is based on the assumption that there is a limited supply of good in the world, that for you to have more, someone else must have less. It sees life as a contest, a struggle for scarce resources, a battle in which only the strongest, smartest, or most fortunate will prevail. When you think competitively, even while trying to manifest abundance, you send a signal of lack to the formless substance. You may be visualizing wealth, but underneath that visualization is the fear that there is not enough, the anxiety that others might get there first, the tension of trying to compete your way to success. This signal, this underlying frequency of lack and struggle, contradicts your conscious intention and confuses the creative process. Wattles was emphatic on this point. You must never compete. The moment you enter into competition, you leave the creative plane and enter the competitive plane, where the rules are entirely different. On the competitive plane, success depends on overcoming others, on being better, faster, stronger than those around you. But on the creative plane, success comes from a completely different source. It comes from aligning yourself with the formless substance and allowing it to create through you, bringing forth new forms of wealth and good that did not exist before, that take from no one and benefit all. The second form of wrong signal is more subtle and more dangerous precisely because it often accompanies genuine desire and sincere effort. This is the signal of anxious wanting. You know this state well if you have ever desperately wanted something to manifest. It feels like intense desire. It feels like strong intention. But underneath the desire is fear, and underneath the intention is doubt. Anxious wanting sends a signal that says, in effect, I do not have this thing that I want, and I am not sure I ever will. Please, universe, give it to me because I am incomplete without it. This signal, no matter how it is dressed up in positive language and visualization techniques, communicates lack, not abundance. It communicates doubt, not faith. And the formless substance, which responds to the essence of your thought rather than its surface content, receives this signal and reflects it back to you as continued waiting, continued wanting, continued absence of the thing you desire. There is a particular sensation that accompanies anxious wanting, and learning to recognize it is essential if you are to move beyond it. It is a feeling of reaching, of grasping, of trying to pull the future toward you through sheer force of will. It is accompanied by a subtle tension in the body, often in the chest or solar plexus, and a restlessness in the mind that cannot be satisfied by any amount of visualization or affirmation. This reaching, grasping energy is the opposite of the signal that accelerates creation. It is, in fact, the primary reason why so many sincere seekers wait so long for manifestations that never come. The third form of wrong signal is perhaps the most insidious of all because it hides in plain sight, often presenting itself as wisdom and discernment. This is the signal of subtle doubt. Unlike obvious doubt, which is easy to recognize and address, subtle doubt operates beneath the level of conscious awareness. You may believe that you believe. You may feel that you have faith. But deep in the recesses of your mind, there is a quiet voice that whispers, "But what if it does not work? What if this is all fantasy? What if I am wasting my time?" This subtle doubt is often the product of past disappointments, of times when you hoped and were let down, when you believed and were betrayed by circumstances. These experiences have left their mark on your psyche, creating a protective mechanism that prevents you from fully committing to belief. This mechanism may have served you well in the past, shielding you from further disappointment. But now, it has become an obstacle, sending a constant low-level signal of uncertainty that undermines your creative power. Wattles understood that the formless substance responds to the totality of your mental state, not just to the thoughts you consciously choose to think. You cannot fool the universe. You cannot say one thing with your conscious mind while your subconscious radiates something entirely different. The signal you send is the signal you send in its entirety, and the formless substance responds to the whole of it, not just the parts you wish it to notice. This is why so many people who practice manifestation techniques with diligence and sincerity still struggle to see results. They are doing everything right on the surface, but underneath, they are sending a signal that contradicts their conscious intention. They are like a radio station trying to broadcast on two frequencies at once, creating nothing but static and confusion. And here we arrive at the threshold of Wattles' great discovery, the insight that separates those who manifest with speed from those who wait in frustration. The question is not whether you desire strongly enough, or visualize clearly enough, or affirm persistently enough. The question is, what signal are you sending beneath all of these activities? What is the quality of your thought when you are not actively thinking about your desire? What is your default mental state, the background frequency upon which all of your conscious intentions are superimposed? This is where the speed secret lives. This is what determines whether the formless substance moves toward you quickly, slowly, or not at all. And in the next part of this exploration, we will reveal exactly what Wattles discovered about the one mental signal that accelerates all creation, the signal that he tried to teach to a world that was not quite ready to hear it. The truth is closer than you think. It has always been closer than you think. And once you understand it, you will wonder how you ever miss something so obvious, so simple, and so profoundly powerful. To understand why manifestation stalls for so many sincere seekers, we must go deeper into the mechanics of mental transmission. Wallace Wattles understood something that most people, even those who study the principles of mind, fail to grasp in its fullness. He understood that the formless substance does not respond to your word. It does not respond to the images you deliberately construct in your imagination. It does not even respond to what you believe you believe. The formless substance responds to the actual signal you are transmitting, moment by moment, through the totality of your mental and emotional state. Think of your mind as a broadcasting station. Every moment of every day, you are sending out a signal into the intelligent field that Wattles called the thinking stuff. This signal is not composed of words or pictures, though words and pictures may influence it. This signal is composed of something more fundamental, something we might call the felt sense of your relationship to reality. It is the answer to the unspoken question that your being is constantly asking: how do I stand in relation to what I want? Am I moving toward it, or is it moving away from me? Do I have it, or am I lacking it? Is it coming, or am I still waiting? The answers to these questions, as they exist in the depth of your being, rather than in your conscious thoughts, constitute the signal you are sending. And here is the terrible truth that Wattles tried to convey. Most people, most of the time, are sending a signal of lack, of wanting, of not yet having, even while they consciously try to think thoughts of abundance and faith. Let us examine how this happens, because understanding the mechanism is the first step toward changing it. When you desire something you do not currently have, your natural tendency is to focus on the gap between where you are and where you want to be. This is simply how the human mind works. You see your current reality, you compare it to your desired reality, and you notice the difference. This noticing of difference, this awareness of the gap, is useful in one sense because it tells you what you want to create. But it becomes destructive when it dominates your mental state, when the gap becomes more real to you than the destination. Most people who practice manifestation spend their mental energy focused on the gap. They visualize what they want, but underneath the visualization is an acute awareness that they do not have it yet. They affirm abundance, but underneath the affirmation is the feeling of current scarcity that motivated the affirmation in the first place. They try to believe, but the very effort of trying reveals that belief has not yet become natural, that doubt still lurks beneath the surface. This gap-focused thinking sends a very specific signal to the formless substance. It says, in effect, I am here, and what I want is there, and there is a distance between us. This signal, No matter how positively it is framed, no matter how many affirmations are layered on top of it, communicates separation. And the formless substance, being perfectly responsive to your signal, reflects that separation back to you as continued waiting, as the perpetual experience of almost but not yet. Wattles saw this pattern in countless people who came to him seeking answers. They were doing everything they had been taught to do. They were thinking positively. They were visualizing their desires. They were trying to have faith. And yet they remained stuck, watching their dreams hover just out of reach like a mirage in the desert that recedes as fast as they approach it. The problem, Wattles realized, was not in their effort or their sincerity. The problem was in the signal they were unconsciously sending, the signal of the gap, the signal of separation, the signal that says, I want this thing because I do not have it, and I am trying to get it because it is not yet mine. There is another dimension to the wrong signal that we must explore, and it is particularly relevant for those who have been studying manifestation for a long time without seeing the results they desire. This is the phenomenon of accumulated frustration, and it is one of the most insidious obstacles on the path of mental creation. Every time you set an intention and it fails to manifest, a small deposit of disappointment is made in your subconscious mind. Every time you hope and are let down, a tiny grain of doubt is added to the growing pile. Over months and years of practice without results, these deposits accumulate into a substantial weight, a background frequency of skepticism and frustration that colors everything you do. You may not be consciously aware of this accumulated weight. In fact, you may have convinced yourself that you have let go of past disappointments and are approaching your current desires with fresh faith, but the subconscious mind forgets nothing. Every failed manifestation, every unanswered prayer, every morning you woke up hoping things had changed only to find them exactly the same, all of these experiences have left their mark on the signal you send. This is why it often seems that beginners manifest more easily than experienced practitioners. The beginner comes to the practice fresh, without the accumulated weight of past disappointments. Their signal is cleaner, less contaminated by the residue of frustrated hoping. The experienced practitioner, on the other hand, may have more knowledge and better technique, but they carry with them the invisible burden of every desire that did not manifest, every promise that did not come true. Wattles addressed this issue directly in his teachings. He understood that to send the correct signal, one must first clear the interference caused by past experiences. This clearing is not accomplished through force of will or by trying to suppress the memories of past disappointments. It is accomplished through a fundamental shift in understanding. A recognition that past failures were not evidence of a flaw in the universal law, but rather evidence of an incorrect signal being sent. When you truly understand that the law works perfectly every time, that the formless substance responds with complete accuracy to whatever signal it receives, you can release the emotional charge around past disappointments. You can see that you were not let down by the universe. You were simply receiving a perfect reflection of the signal you were sending. This understanding removes blame, removes resentment, removes the sense of having been betrayed by life or by God. And in that removal, the accumulated weight begins to dissolve. But there is yet another aspect of the wrong signal that we must examine, because it traps many people who believe they have moved beyond the earlier obstacles. This is the phenomenon of disguised doubt, and it is perhaps the most difficult to recognize precisely because it looks so much like faith. Disguised doubt occurs when you try to believe something before you actually believe it. It occurs when you affirm a truth that you want to be true, but that does not yet feel true in the depths of your being. It occurs when you use positive words to cover over negative feelings. When you speak of abundance while your body is contracted with the tension of scarcity. When you declare that everything is working out while your stomach churns with anxiety. The mind is a sophisticated instrument capable of generating convincing performances of belief even when genuine belief is absent. You can speak words of faith with passion and sincerity while your deeper self remains unconvinced. You can create vivid mental images of your desire fulfilled while your nervous system remains locked in the pattern of wanting and waiting. You can even generate temporary feelings of excitement and anticipation while the background frequency of your consciousness remains tuned to lack. Wattles warned against this performative faith, this faith of words without substance. He knew that the formless substance cannot be deceived. It responds not to what you say or what you try to believe, but to what you actually transmit through the totality of your being. And a performance of faith, no matter how convincing it may appear to yourself or others, sends a signal that is fundamentally different from the signal of genuine knowing. The difference between performed faith and genuine knowing is subtle but crucial. Performed faith has an effortful quality, a sense of trying to convince yourself or the universe of something that remains uncertain. Genuine knowing has an effortless quality, a simple recognition of what is without any need for convincing or persuading. Performed faith is loud, often accompanied by intense affirmations and dramatic visualizations. Genuine knowing is quiet, requiring no external expression because it rests secure in itself. When you truly know something, you do not need to affirm it repeatedly. You do not need to visualize it obsessively. You do not need to convince yourself of its truth. You simply know it, the way you know that the sun will rise tomorrow, the way you know that water will flow downhill, the way you know your own name. This quality of knowing, this settled certainty that requires no effort to maintain, is the foundation of the signal that accelerates creation. But how does one move from performed faith to genuine knowing? How does one transform the effortful trying of affirmation into the effortless resting of certainty? This is the question that Wattles spent years contemplating, and his answer reveals the heart of the speed secret. The transformation cannot be forced. The very act of trying to force yourself to believe creates the signal of not yet believing. The transformation happens not through effort, but through understanding, through a deepening recognition of the nature of reality that gradually shifts your default orientation from doubt to certainty. Wattles taught that this understanding begins with a clear recognition of what the formless substance actually is. It is not a distant deity that may or may not choose to answer your prayers. It is not a cosmic vending machine that requires the right combination of thoughts and feelings to dispense your desires. It is the very fabric of reality itself, the intelligent ground from which all forms arise, and it is not separate from you. You are in it, and it is in you. Your consciousness is a localized expression of its infinite consciousness. Your creative power is a focused channel of its unlimited creative power. When this understanding deepens from intellectual concept to felt reality, something shifts in the signal you send. You stop reaching for something outside yourself because you recognize that there is nothing outside yourself in the ultimate sense. You stop trying to attract things to you because you recognize that all things already exist within the field of which you are a part. You stop pleading with the universe to give you what you want because you recognize that the universe is already configured to manifest whatever you truly know to be yours. This shift in understanding does not happen overnight. It is not accomplished by reading a book or attending a seminar or having a single moment of insight. It develops gradually, through contemplation, through observation, through the repeated recognition that reality operates exactly as Wattles described. Every time you catch a glimpse of the formless substance at work, every time you notice the connection between your mental state and your external circumstances, your understanding deepens and your signal clarifies. But there is something you can do right now, today, to begin sending a different signal. There is a practice, simple yet profound, that Wattles placed at the center of his teaching. This practice does not require you to force yourself to believe anything. It does not require you to suppress doubt or pretend to feel what you do not feel. It works with your current state of consciousness while gradually elevating it toward the certainty that accelerates creation. This practice is gratitude, but not gratitude as it is commonly understood. Not gratitude for what you have already received, though that is valuable. Not gratitude as a technique for feeling better about your current circumstances, though that may happen as a side effect. The gratitude that Wattles taught is something different, something far more powerful. It is gratitude for what is coming, expressed as if it has already arrived. This is the pivotal insight, the hinge upon which the speed secret turns. And in the next part of this exploration, we will examine exactly how this practice works, why it sends the signal that accelerates creation, and how you can begin implementing it in your life today. The transformation you have been seeking is not far away. It is not the result of some advanced technique you have not yet learned or some secret teaching you have not yet discovered. It is available to you now, in this moment, as soon as you understand how to send the signal that the formless substance has been waiting to receive from you all along. We have arrived at the heart of Wallace Wattles' discovery, the revelation that separates those who manifest with extraordinary speed from those who wait in endless frustration. What you are about to understand is not a technique in the ordinary sense. It is not something you add to your existing practice of visualization and affirmation. It is a fundamental shift in the quality of your mental transmission, a change in the very essence of the signal you send to the formless substance. Wattles called it by various names throughout his writings. He spoke of it as the certain way, as scientific faith, as the creative mind in harmonious relationship with the original substance. But beneath all of these descriptions lies a single, unified principle that can be expressed simply. The signal that accelerates creation is calm certainty combined with anticipatory gratitude. Let those words settle into your awareness for a moment. Calm certainty combined with anticipatory gratitude. This is the speed secret. This is what determines whether the formless substance moves towards you with rapidity or remains motionless in response to your desires. This is what the fastest manifestors do naturally, often without conscious awareness, and what the slowest manifestors fail to do despite years of dedicated practice. To understand why this particular signal accelerates creation, we must return to Wattles' understanding of how the formless substance operates. The thinking stuff, as he called it, is not passive matter waiting to be shaped by external forces. It is intelligent, responsive, and creative by nature. It is constantly seeking to express itself in new forms, constantly moving toward greater life, fuller expression, more complete manifestation? This is its inherent tendency, its natural direction of movement. When you send a signal of calm certainty, you align yourself with this natural tendency. You are not pushing against the current of creation, but flowing with it. You are not trying to force the formless substance to do something contrary to its nature, but simply directing its natural creative impulse toward a specific form. This alignment removes resistance, removes friction, removes the energetic obstacles that slow down the manifestation process. Think of it this way. The formless substance is like a vast ocean of creative potential, always ready to take the shape of whatever clear impression is made upon it. When you approach this ocean with anxiety, with desperate wanting, with the tension of trying to force a result, you create turbulence on the surface that prevents your impression from going deep. Your desire bounces off the disturbed surface instead of penetrating to the depths where creation actually occurs. But when you approach the same ocean with calm certainty, with the settled knowing that your desire is already accomplished in the realm of the formless, you create no turbulence. The surface is still. Your impression passes directly into the depths, where it is received completely and immediately acted upon. The speed of manifestation is determined not by how strongly you want something, but by how clearly and calmly you impress your vision upon the creative medium. This is why Wattles insisted so strongly on the elimination of anxiety from the creative process. Anxiety is not just an unpleasant emotion to be managed. It is an active interference with the signal you are trying to send. Every moment of anxious wanting creates static in your transmission, noise that obscures the clarity of your impression and slows the response of the formless substance. But here is where many students of manifestation make a crucial error. They hear that anxiety interferes with creation, and they become anxious about their anxiety. They notice worry arising in their minds, and they worry about the worry. They observe doubt appearing, and they doubt themselves for doubting. This secondary layer of resistance only compounds the problem, adding more turbulence to an already disturbed surface. Wattles' solution was not to fight against anxiety, but to replace it with something more powerful. You cannot eliminate a mental state through direct opposition. What you resist persists, as the saying goes. But you can shift your attention to a different mental state, one that naturally displaces the anxiety without any struggle or effort. This is where anticipatory gratitude enters the picture. Gratitude in Wattles' teaching is not merely a positive emotion or a pleasant practice. It is a specific orientation of consciousness that sends a very particular signal to the formless substance. When you feel genuine gratitude, you are acknowledging receipt of something good. You are recognizing that something valuable has come to you, that you have been blessed, that the universe has moved in your favor. This signal of receipt is fundamentally different from the signal of wanting, and it produces fundamentally different results. But Wattles took this understanding further than most teachers before or since. He taught that gratitude should not be limited to things already received in physical form. He taught that the most powerful gratitude is felt for things that are still on their way, things that exist in the formless substance but have not yet appeared in your material experience. This is anticipatory gratitude, and it is the second component of the signal that accelerates creation. When you feel genuine gratitude for something before it has physically manifested, you send a signal that is extraordinarily clear and powerful. You are telling the formless substance, in the language it understands best, that you have already received what you asked for. You are not hoping for it. You are not waiting for it. You are not wondering if or when it will arrive. You are thanking it for having arrived, even though your physical senses do not yet confirm its presence. This may sound like self-deception, like pretending to have something you do not have. But Wattles understood it differently. He understood that the formless realm is more real, not less real, than the physical realm. The physical world is simply the formless having taken shape, the invisible having become visible. When something exists clearly in the formless substance, impressed there by your certain thought, it already exists. Its physical manifestation is simply a matter of time, a process that is already underway and cannot be stopped. Therefore, gratitude for the unmanifested is not pretense. It is recognition of a deeper reality. It is acknowledgement that what you have impressed upon the formless is already yours in the truest sense, even though it has not yet descended into physical form. This understanding transforms gratitude from a psychological trick into a genuine spiritual perception, and genuine perception always produces more powerful results than mere technique. The combination of calm certainty and anticipatory gratitude creates a signal of unprecedented clarity. Calm certainty removes the turbulence of anxiety, allowing your impression to penetrate deeply into the formless substance. Anticipatory gratitude confirms the receipt of your desire, signaling to the creative medium that the transaction is complete, that you have received what you asked for, that no further convincing or persuading is necessary. Together, these two qualities produce what Wattles called the proper mental attitude for getting rich. Though his teaching applies equally to any form of creation, not just financial abundance. This attitude is not tense striving. It is not hopeful wishing. It is not fervent pleading. It is relaxed knowing combined with thankful receiving. It is the consciousness of someone who has placed an order and knows without doubt that delivery is on the way. Consider how you feel when you have ordered something online and received confirmation that your order has been processed and shipped. You do not spend your days anxiously wondering if the package will arrive. You do not repeatedly call the company to make sure they received your order. You do not visualize the package obsessively, trying to attract it through mental force. You simply go about your life, calmly certain that what you ordered is on its way, occasionally checking the tracking information with pleasant anticipation rather than anxious worry. This is precisely the mental attitude that Wattles prescribed for the process of creation. Order your desire by impressing it clearly upon the formless substance. Receive confirmation of your order through the inner knowing that the substance has received your impression and is already acting upon it. Then go about your life in calm certainty and anticipatory gratitude, knowing that delivery is not in question, only timing. This attitude explains why some people seem to manifest almost effortlessly, while others struggle for years without results. The effortless manifestors have somehow stumbled upon this signal, often without understanding what they are doing. They naturally approach life with a certain relaxed confidence, a basic trust that things will work out, a tendency to appreciate good things before they fully arrive. They are not necessarily more spiritual or more evolved than others. They have simply, through temperament or experience, learned to send the signal that the formless substance responds to most rapidly. The good news is that this signal can be learned. It is not a gift bestowed upon a fortunate few. It is a skill that can be developed, an orientation that can be cultivated, a mental habit that can be formed through understanding and practice. Wattles devoted much of his teaching to explaining exactly how this cultivation occurs, and his instructions, though given over a century ago, remain as practical and applicable today as they were then. The first step is to understand deeply and completely that what you are trying to achieve is not difficult. The formless substance wants to take the shape of your desire. It is not reluctant. It is not testing you. It is not making you prove yourself worthy. It is simply waiting for a clear impression delivered without interference that it can act upon. The moment such an impression is received, the creative process begins. The moment you stop interfering with that process through anxiety and doubt, the manifestation accelerates to its natural speed. This understanding alone can begin to shift your signal. When you truly grasp that the universe is not working against you, that manifestation is not a struggle against cosmic resistance. That the only thing slowing down your creation is the turbulence in your own transmission. A certain relaxation naturally occurs. You stop fighting. You stop straining. You stop trying to force what does not need to be forced. And in that stopping, in that release of unnecessary effort, the signal clarifies itself. The second step is to begin practicing anticipatory gratitude as a daily discipline. This is not complicated, but it must be done correctly to produce results. Each day, ideally in the morning before the concerns of daily life have cluttered your mind, take a few minutes to feel gratitude for your desire as if it has already manifested. Do not visualize it coming to you in the future. Do not hope that it will arrive someday. Feel, in your body and emotions, the gratitude you would feel if you looked around right now and saw that your desire had fully materialized. This practice may feel artificial at first. You may notice resistance, a voice in your mind that says, "This is ridiculous. I do not have this thing. Why should I feel grateful for something that has not happened?" This resistance is simply the old signal, the signal of lack and waiting, trying to maintain its dominance. Acknowledge it without fighting it, and gently return your attention to the feeling of gratitude. Over time, with practice, the new signal will strengthen and the old signal will fade. The third step is to maintain this signal throughout the day, not just during dedicated practice sessions. This does not mean you must think about your desire constantly. In fact, Wattles cautioned against obsessive focus on the desire, which tends to generate anxiety rather than certainty. What it means is that whenever you do think about your desire, you approach it from the signal of calm certainty and anticipatory gratitude rather than from the signal of anxious wanting. When you catch yourself slipping into worry about whether your desire will manifest, gently remind yourself that the formless substance has received your impression and is acting upon it. When you notice the old feeling of lack arising, shift your attention to gratitude for what is already on its way. When doubt whispers that this cannot possibly work, remember that doubt is simply the old signal, the signal that produced the slow results you experienced before, and choose consciously to send a different signal. This is not suppression. This is not denial. This is conscious choice, the exercise of your power as a creative being to determine what signal you will send to the formless substance. You are not pretending that doubt does not exist. You are recognizing that you have the power to send a different signal despite the presence of doubt, and that each time you exercise this power, the new signal grows stronger and the old signal grows weaker. Wattles emphasized that this process requires patience with yourself. You are attempting to change a habitual pattern of mental transmission that may have been established over decades. You cannot expect it to shift overnight. But every day that you practice the new signal, you are building new neural pathways, establishing new emotional habits, creating a new default orientation that will eventually become as natural as the old one once was. And when that shift occurs, when calm, certainty, and anticipatory gratitude become your natural way of relating to your desires, you will notice something remarkable. The time between setting an intention and seeing its manifestation will begin to decrease. Opportunities will appear more quickly. Resources will flow more freely. The whole process of creation will accelerate in a way that may seem miraculous but is actually perfectly natural, the inevitable result of finally sending the signal that the formless substance has been waiting to receive. In the final part of this exploration, we will examine exactly how to implement this teaching in your daily life, how to handle the inevitable setbacks and challenges, and how to recognize the signs that the speed secret is beginning to work in your experience. The transformation you seek is not only possible. Given the principles we have explored, it is inevitable. The only question is how quickly you will allow it to unfold. Everything we have explored thus far leads to this moment, to the practical application of the speed secret in your daily life. Wallace Wattles was not interested in abstract philosophy or beautiful theories that had no practical value. He was a man who had suffered through decades of poverty and limitation, and when he discovered the principles that transformed his life, he was determined to make them accessible to anyone willing to apply them. What follows is the distillation of his teaching into a form you can begin using today, this very hour, this very moment. The first thing you must understand is that the speed secret is not something you practice once and then forget. It is not a technique you apply during a morning meditation session and then abandon as you go about your day. It is a fundamental reorientation of how you relate to reality, a new way of being that gradually becomes your default state through consistent application. In the beginning, you will need to remind yourself frequently to send the correct signal. Over time, this signal will become so natural that you will send it without conscious effort, the way you breathe without thinking about breathing. Begin each morning with what Wattles called the contemplation of your vision. Before you rise from bed, before you check your phone, before you engage with the demands of the day, take a few minutes to hold your desire clearly in your mind. But notice carefully how you hold it. You are not reaching for something far away. You are not hoping for something uncertain. You are contemplating something that already exists, something that is already yours in the formless realm, something that is even now moving toward physical manifestation. As you hold this vision, allow gratitude to arise naturally. Feel thankful that the formless substance has received your impression and is acting upon it. Feel thankful that you live in a universe that responds to thought, that creation is not reserved for special people but is available to anyone who understands and applies the law. Feel thankful that the very desire you hold in your mind is evidence that the fulfillment of that desire already exists, waiting to take physical form. This morning, contemplation should not last more than 10 or 15 minutes. Wattles was clear that extended periods of visualization can actually work against you by generating anxiety and obsessive focus. The purpose of this practice is not to add more thoughts about your desire, but to establish the quality of your relationship to that desire. Brief, clear, and saturated with calm certainty and anticipatory gratitude, this is the ideal approach. Then, rise and go about your day. And here is where the real work begins, because the signal you send during the hours of daily activity matters more than the signal you send during dedicated practice time. Most people who fail at manifestation send a correct signal during meditation and then immediately revert to the old signal of anxiety and lack as soon as they open their eyes. The formless substance receives both signals, and the signal you send most consistently is the signal that determines your results. Throughout the day, you will encounter moments that challenge your calm certainty. You will see evidence that your desire has not yet manifested. You will face circumstances that seem to contradict your vision. You will hear news, have conversations, and observe situations that trigger the old feelings of doubt and lack. This is not a problem to be avoided. This is the training ground where your new signal becomes strong enough to override the old one. When such moments arise, and they will arise frequently in the beginning, you have a choice. You can react automatically from the old pattern, allowing the external evidence to determine your internal state, sending a signal of lack and waiting to the formless substance. Or you can pause, recognize what is happening, and consciously choose to send the signal of calm, certainty, and anticipatory gratitude regardless of what your senses are showing you. This conscious choice is the essence of what Wattles called thinking in the certain way. It is not positive thinking in the superficial sense of ignoring reality or pretending that everything is fine when it clearly is not. It is a deliberate decision to maintain your inner orientation toward your desire even when outer circumstances have not yet caught up. It is the recognition that the formless realm is more real than the physical realm, and that what exists clearly in the formless will inevitably manifest in the physical, regardless of current appearances. Wattles gave a specific instruction for handling moments of doubt that is worth examining closely. He said that whenever you find yourself in doubt or uncertainty, you should simply bring your attention back to the fact that the formless substance exists, that it permeates everything, that it responds to thought, and that your thought has been received and is being acted upon. This simple refocusing is often enough to shift your signal from anxiety to certainty, from doubt to trust. Notice that this instruction does not require you to fight against doubt or to suppress it through force of will. It simply redirects attention. Doubt arises in the field of your awareness. You notice it. And then you bring your attention to what is actually true, to the nature of the formless substance and its certain response to your clear impression. The doubt may still be present in the periphery, but it is no longer the focus of your attention, and therefore it is no longer the dominant factor in the signal you send. There is another element of the speed secret that Wattles emphasized strongly, and it concerns the relationship between mental creation and physical action. Many students of manifestation fall into one of two errors. Either they believe that mental work alone is sufficient and no physical action is required, or they believe that physical action is the primary cause of results and mental work is merely a pleasant supplement. Both of these views miss the complete picture that Wattles taught. The truth is that mental creation and physical action work together in a specific way. The mental work impresses your desire upon the formless substance, which then begins to organize circumstances, opportunities, and resources in alignment with your vision, But you must be ready to receive what the substance is organizing for you, and this readiness often requires action on your part. Wattles called this efficient action, action taken in the present moment that moves you towards your desire while remaining in harmony with your mental signal. Efficient action is not anxious striving. It is not desperate hustling motivated by fear that your desire will not manifest unless you work yourself to exhaustion. This kind of action, though it may look productive from the outside, sends the wrong signal. It tells the formless substance that you do not trust the mental work you have done, that you believe physical effort alone determines results, that you are still operating from the consciousness of competition and lack. True, efficient action has a different quality entirely. It is action taken from the consciousness of calm certainty, action that feels like a natural extension of your inner knowing rather than a desperate attempt to make something happen. When you act from this consciousness, you are not trying to force results. You are simply doing what is in front of you to do, taking the next obvious step and trusting that the formless substance is coordinating everything else. Wattles gave the instruction to do all that can be done each day, but to do it in the manner that sends the correct signal. This means giving your full attention and best effort to whatever task is before you, not because you are afraid of failure, but because you are expressing the creative energy that flows through you. When you wash dishes, wash them completely. When you write a letter, write it well. When you perform your work, perform it with excellence. Every action becomes an expression of your creative certainty, a physical manifestation of the mental signal you are sending. This approach to action removes the frantic quality that characterizes so much human effort. You do not need to do everything at once because you trust that the formless substance is handling what you cannot handle. You do not need to work from fear because you know that your results are determined by your signal, not by the quantity of your striving. You do not need to compete with others because you understand that your good comes from the creative plane, not from taking anything from anyone else. As you practice sending the correct signal and taking efficient action, you will begin to notice signs that the speed secret is working in your experience. These signs may be subtle at first, easy to dismiss as coincidence if you are not paying attention. Opportunities will begin to appear with greater frequency. People will offer help without being asked. Resources will show up just when they are needed. The overall flow of your life will begin to feel different, less like struggling upstream and more like floating with a current that is carrying you where you want to go. When you notice these signs, allow them to strengthen your certainty rather than dismissing them as accidents. Each confirmation that the law is working reinforces your new signal and makes it easier to maintain. Each manifestation, no matter how small, provides evidence that your mental work is producing results. Over time, as the evidence accumulates, your calm certainty will deepen from a practice you are trying to maintain into a natural state that requires no effort to sustain. But you must also be prepared for periods when the external evidence seems to contradict your vision, when circumstances appear to be moving away from your desire rather than toward it. These periods test the depth of your understanding and the stability of your signal. They are not signs that the law has failed or that you have done something wrong. They are often the reorganization phase, the period during which the old forms are dissolving to make way for the new forms that are coming. Wattles was clear that during these periods, more than at any other time, you must maintain your signal of calm, certainty, and anticipatory gratitude. When appearances are most contrary, your mental stance must be most firm, not rigid, not tense, not fighting against what is, but calmly certain that what exists in the formless is more real than what appears in the physical, and that the physical must eventually conform to the formless. This is perhaps the most difficult aspect of the teaching to apply, because when things seem to be falling apart, every instinct screams at you to panic, to doubt, to abandon your vision and try to salvage what you can. But if you can hold your signal steady through these storms, you will emerge on the other side to find that the dissolution was necessary for the creation, that the falling apart was actually the reorganization, that what seemed like delay was actually acceleration in disguise. There is one final element of the speed secret that we must address, and it concerns the relationship between your personal will and the intelligence of the formless substance. Many students of manifestation make the error of trying to control every detail of how their desire will manifest. They not only hold a vision of what they want, but also insist on exactly how it must come, exactly when it must arrive, exactly what form it must take. This controlling approach, though it may feel like clarity and decisiveness, actually limits the creative power of the formless substance. The infinite intelligence that permeates all things knows far more than your conscious mind about how to bring your desire into manifestation. It sees connections and possibilities that are invisible to you. It can orchestrate circumstances in ways you could never imagine or predict. When you try to control the how and when, you are essentially telling the infinite intelligence that you know better than it does. You are limiting the creative process to only those channels that your conscious mind can conceive. This limitation slows down manifestation considerably because you are forcing the formless substance to work within the narrow parameters you have set, rather than allowing it to find the fastest, most elegant path to your desire. The correct approach, according to Wattles, is to be absolutely clear about what you want while remaining completely open about how it will come. Your job is to impress the vision clearly upon the formless substance and to maintain the signal of calm certainty and anticipatory gratitude. The substance's job is to determine the means of manifestation, to organize the circumstances and opportunities, to bring your desire into physical form through whatever channels are most efficient. This division of labor is essential for acceleration. When you release the need to control the process, you remove a significant source of anxiety from your signal. When you trust the infinite intelligence to handle the details, you can relax into a deeper level of certainty. And when you stop limiting the channels through which your good can come, you open yourself to manifestations that are faster and more complete than anything your conscious mind could have engineered. As we come to the end of this exploration, let us return to the question that began our journey. Why does manifestation work for some and not for others? Why do some people seem to attract their desires quickly while others wait for years without results? The answer, as Wallace Wattles discovered more than a century ago, lies in the signal we send to the formless substance that underlies all creation. Those who manifest quickly send a signal of calm certainty combined with anticipatory gratitude. They approach their desires not as distant hopes, but as present realities that have not yet taken physical form. They feel thankful for what is coming as if it has already arrived. They act from trust rather than fear. They release the need to control the process and allow the infinite intelligence to determine the means. This signal, clear and steady, is received by the formless substance and acted upon with speed. Those who wait in frustration send a different signal, often without realizing it. They send the signal of anxious wanting, of desperate hoping, of trying to believe something they do not yet believe. They focus on the gap between where they are and where they want to be. They try to control the process because they do not trust the process. They affirm abundance with their words while radiating lack with their being. This confused signal cannot be acted upon clearly, and so the manifestation is delayed, sometimes indefinitely. You now understand the difference between these signals. You know what the speed secret is and how it works. The only question that remains is whether you will apply this understanding in your life. Knowledge without application is merely entertainment. It may make you feel good to understand these principles, but understanding alone will not change your circumstances. Only the consistent sending of the correct signal, day after day, moment after moment, will produce the acceleration you seek. Begin today. Begin this moment. Feel the calm certainty that the formless substance exists and responds to your thought. Feel the anticipatory gratitude for the desire that is already yours in the invisible realm. Let go of anxious striving and desperate wanting. Release the need to control how and when. Trust the infinite intelligence to bring your good through channels you cannot foresee. This is the teaching that Wallace Wattles left for those who would come after him. This is the speed secret that he discovered through years of struggle and contemplation. This is the one mental signal that accelerates all creation, and now it is yours. If this message has resonated with something deep within you, if you have felt a shift in your understanding, even as you listen to these words, then you are ready to join a community of seekers who are applying these principles in their daily lives. Subscribe to this channel to continue receiving the wisdom of Wallace Wattles and the New Thought tradition. Leave a comment below sharing your experience with these teachings, your challenges, your breakthroughs, your questions. Your words may be exactly what another seeker needs to hear at this moment in their journey. And share this message with anyone you know who is ready to stop waiting and start accelerating the creative process in their life. The formless substance is listening. The infinite intelligence is ready to respond. The only question is, what signal will you send?